All right, folks, gather round because there's a fair bit to unpack when it comes to what's happening at Celtic right now. It feels like every other week there's another change, another shuffle behind the scenes, and this time it's a pretty significant one. Our head of scouting operations, Jay Lefebvre, is on his way out, apparently set to join Swansea City down south. It's another big move in a period where Celtic seem to be quietly restructuring things across different departments, and it raises plenty of questions about what direction we're heading next. Now, Lefebvre's not just some name buried in the club's staff list. He's been around for nearly 6 years, having joined back in December of 2019. That's long enough to have seen multiple managers come and go, a few trophy parades, and more than one transfer window full of hits and misses. He was originally brought in under Nick Hammond, who some of you might remember from that post-Rodgers pre-Ange period when we were trying to modernize how the club handled recruitment. So, yeah, Jay's been there through a lot, the transition years, the highs under Ange, and now into this slightly uncertain new era. Before joining Celtic, he'd already built up a strong background in English football. He'd done video scouting and analysis for Arsenal, spent time with Brighton, and had a spell at Millwall too. So we're talking about someone with genuine experience at different levels of the game, a guy who understands how to identify talent, how to organize data, how to manage scouts, and most importantly, how to translate numbers and reports into players that actually fit the team's needs. In his own words, well, from what he once described on his LinkedIn, he wasn't just watching matches or writing reports, he was coordinating the entire system. He assigned scouts to different leagues, he tracked player loans, he managed the software and the data processes, and he even introduced statistical models to help find the right kind of players for the squad. Basically, he was running the entire scouting machine at Celtic. So when someone like that moves on, it's not just another quiet staff exit. It leaves a gap that needs to be filled quickly, and it also makes you wonder what kind of structure Celtic will put in place next. The truth is, we rarely hear about these people until they leave. The club tends to keep that side of things very private. There's no list of scouts on the website, no official statements about who's leading recruitment, none of that. And fair enough, that's not uncommon in football, but it does mean fans are often left in the dark about who's actually responsible for finding the players who end up wearing the shirt. Still, for all the secrecy, these are the kind of people shaping the future of the squad. And speaking of players, let's be honest, recruitment has been hit and miss lately. For every smart signing, there's been a handful that just haven't worked out. Lefebvre himself once highlighted some of his biggest successes, the signings of Jota and Matt O'Reilly, both of whom turned into stars and fetched record transfer fees when they moved on. That's the kind of business any scout or recruitment head would be proud of, but since those golden deals, things haven't gone quite as smoothly. You only need to look at the past 5 transfer windows to see how inconsistent our hit rate has been. Since Brendan Rodgers came back to the club, we've brought in over 30 first-team players and spent around £75 million in that time. That's a lot of money by Celtic standards. The question is, have we truly got value for it? You'd be hard-pressed to argue that we have. Only a handful of those signings could genuinely be classed as successes. Sure, Nicholas and Kasper Schmeichel have had their moments, and Luke McCowan, for £1 million, looks like decent business, but for every one of those, there are several others who haven't delivered anything close to what was expected. You don't even need to be a stats expert to see the pattern. The summer of 2023 was particularly rough. Easily one of the most frustrating transfer windows in recent memory. We brought in players like Odin Holm, Marco Tilio, Gustav Lagerbielke, and Lewis Palmer, spending more than £16 million across that batch, and none of them have really made the kind of impact you'd expect. It's harsh, but fair to say that, apart from a few glimpses here and there, it's been largely disappointing. Some of the newer faces, guys like Ian Owell, Belicha, and Tenki, probably fall into the not proven yet category, but the overall picture is clear. The recruitment just hasn't been good enough. Now, I'm not sitting here putting all the blame on Jay Lefebvre. Football doesn't work like that. Transfers are the result of a lot of moving parts: scouts, analysts, directors, the manager, agents, budgets, and sometimes things just don't click. But still, when the head of scouting leaves, it's fair to ask questions about how the department's performing and what the long-term strategy actually is. Because right now it feels like Celtic are in a bit of a strange place. We've still got several players who were mainstays from the Ange post-Koglu era. And while they've given us amazing memories, you can't ignore the signs that some of them are struggling to hit the same levels again, whether that's down to motivation, fitness, or just natural decline. It's left us relying too heavily on the past instead of building for the future. That's why this upcoming rebuild feels so important. In fact, you could argue that it hasn't even properly started yet. You can't rebuild without shifting players out and bringing new ones in who actually improve the squad. January will be massive. It has to be the real starting point of this new chapter. And part of that means getting the scouting structure right. Celtic need to find the right people to lead recruitment, people who can spot real value in the market and identify players who aren't just statistically impressive, but also mentally and physically suited to the demands of playing for a club like Celtic. It's not just about finding cheap talent to flip later. It's about building a team that can dominate domestically and make a dent in Europe again. What makes it even trickier is that so many of our recent signings feel disconnected from the team's actual needs. Some look like club-driven deals rather than manager-driven ones, and that's a problem. We've all heard Brendan Rodgers say things like, the club signs the players and I develop them. And that line has always made fans uneasy. We can't afford to have that kind of split anymore. The next manager, whoever that ends up being, needs to be deeply involved in recruitment from day one. Every signing should have a clear purpose, a role, a reason. None of this scattergun approach where players arrive without a clear pathway to the first team. The club also needs to start being more transparent with supporters. Nobody's asking for full boardroom minutes or transfer targets leaked online, but giving fans even a small sense of the vision would make a huge difference. What's the plan? Are we still targeting the Japanese market after the Ange era? Are we looking more towards South America after bringing in Sara from Argentina? Are we focusing on developing Champions League caliber players? Or is that just another buzz phrase rolled out every time the window closes? Because right now, supporters feel disconnected from the club's decision-making. And when people feel shut out, it creates frustration and doubt, even when the intentions behind the scenes might actually be good. So, yeah, losing someone like Jay Lefebvre might not make the back pages of every newspaper, but it's a big deal for Celtic's long-term rebuild. It's another sign that the club is in transition both on and off the pitch. Rodgers has gone, members of his backroom team have followed, and now We're seeing changes at the academy and in the scouting setup too. All these shifts might end up being positive if handled the right way, but for that to happen, Celtic need clarity, direction, and proper communication between every department, from the board to the dugout to the scouting office. Only then can this rebuild truly begin. So while all that's been going on behind the scenes, there's also been plenty happening on the pitch, or maybe more accurately off it, since we're right in the middle of another international break. You know what it's like. The league pauses and suddenly half the squad disappears across the globe. It's always a bit of a nervy time for us Celtic supporters because, let's be honest, our injury list has already been long enough without the added risk of players picking up knocks on international duty. The hope right now is simply that everyone comes back in one piece because the squad is stretched thinner than ever. Kieran Tierney and Anthony Ralston are both away, representing Scotland, gearing up for matches against Greece and Denmark. Kasper Schmeichel's Edvin expected to face Scotland at Hampton, which will be a bit of a reunion moment given his recent move north. It's funny, you can almost see him walking out with that familiar calmness, knowing the stadium and the atmosphere so well. Scotland only need a draw in Greece to make that match truly matter, so there's plenty on the line there. Liam Scales and young Johnny Kenny are away with Ireland, which is great to see, especially for Kenny, who's really earned that call-up with his performances. They've got Portugal and Hungary to deal with, two tough games, but the experience will do him the world of good. Across the Atlantic, Austin Trusty's been rewarded with a recall to the United States national team. He's heading into friendlies against Paraguay and Uruguay. Solid opposition and a real chance for him to keep showing the progress he's made since coming to Celtic. Meanwhile, Benjamin Negron is with Sweden, though their campaign hasn't exactly gone to plan. They're basically out of the running for World Cup qualification, now managed by Graham Potter, which is a strange twist when you think about it. Maybe he'll take a liking to Negron and give him some proper minutes. Misha Balicia's finally earned his first call-up for DR Congo after missing a few squads earlier this season. It's a big one too. They've got Cameroon in a crucial World Cup playoff. You can bet he'll be fired up for that. Then there's our Finnish connection, with Vallejo linking up with his national side for a friendly against Andorra and a qualifier with Malta. Hopefully he gets some game time there. As for Sebastian Tenketi, reports say he's away with Tunisia, although there's been a bit of confusion about whether he's actually been listed in their final squad. Either way, it's good to see these players staying involved internationally because it keeps them sharp and motivated. Dazen Maida's also away, of course, back with Japan for the Kirin Cup, which might be technically a friendly tournament, but trust me, the Japanese fans and players take it seriously. They'll be facing Ghana and Bolivia, and knowing Dyson, he'll run every blade of grass there just like he does for us. And while we're on the subject of players making appearances, there was a small but interesting development in the B team. They've advanced to the knockout stages of the KDM Evolution Trophy, even though they lost their most recent match 2-0 to East Kilbride. It's not exactly glamorous football, but these are the kind of nights that shape young players. Shen Yamada featured there, which caught a few eyes. Imagine coming from Japan, signing for Celtic, and then finding yourself playing on a cold night at Calderglen Country Park. Not quite the dream setting, but hey, everyone's got to start somewhere. He only needs to look at someone like Callum Osmond, who was playing at that same level not long ago before stepping up to the senior team. It's a reminder that progress in football isn't always a straight line. Now, when it comes to players who didn't get call-ups, it's a mixed bag. Reo Hatate's still waiting for his next chance with Japan. Ari Engels hasn't been capped by Belgium in almost a year. And of course, a number of our regulars like Cameron Carter-Vickers, Alistair Johnston, Kelechi Iheanacho and Marcelo Sarra are all staying put due to injuries. That's the main concern, keeping those lads fit, getting them back into the fold, because we're already light in most areas apart from central midfield. One or two more injuries, and it could get really messy, especially heading into the busy winter schedule. What's slightly surprising, though, is that there's been no real update on the managerial front. You'd expect some movement by now, but everything's gone quiet. Wilfried Nancy's name keeps coming up. He's clearly being talked about in a few circles, but it doesn't seem like anything's close to being confirmed. It still feels like early days in that process. The club are probably weighing up different options, maybe even waiting to see how certain leagues and managers finish up before making a move. That silence, though, always makes supporters uneasy. When there's no communication, rumours fill the gaps, and we've had more than our fair share of those lately. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favourite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favourite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers have been circulating in Glasgow over the past week, and if the grapevine is to be believed, the Celtic squad for 2025 is set to receive a shock injection of experience and, some might argue, controversy. None other than Harry Maguire, the England international whose Premier League exploits have kept him under the spotlight, for better or worse, is reportedly on the brink of signing with the boys. Sources close to the club suggest that negotiations have been very positive and that Maguire's arrival could be confirmed any day now. Celtic fans have already taken to social media, their reactions ranging from sheer excitement to sheer disbelief. The 31-year-old defender, known for his commanding presence in the backline and occasional headline-grabbing moments off the pitch, would be joining a squad that has been carefully rebuilt over the past seasons, aiming to dominate the Scottish Premiership. Once again, if the rumour proves true, Maguire would slot into a defence that has seen its fair share of turnover recently. The Scots-Toon faithful are no strangers to high-profile acquisitions, but few transfers in recent memory have generated the level of buzz reportedly surrounding this one. The prospect of pairing Maguire with Celtic's existing centre-back options could bring a blend of Premier League pedigree and European experience to a team that has been hungry for stability at the back. Of course, there are questions. I know Maguire's Premier League journey has had its peaks and valleys, and pundits are already debating whether his style and form will translate to Scottish football. Will he lead with the authority expected of him, or will the intense scrutiny of Celtic Park prove a challenge? Either way, insiders hint that the coaching staff sees in him not just a defender, but a potential leader on and off the pitch. Meanwhile, rival fans can barely conceal their glee at the prospect of seeing Maguire traded north of the border, predicting that the Scottish weather might prove harsher than the Premier League's pressure cooker. For now, though, it's all speculation, whispers in the corridors of Lennoxtown, and murmurs from those close to the transfer market. But one thing seems certain: if Harry Maguire does indeed join Celtic in 2025, the Scottish football scene is in for one heck of a story. Hello, fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.